All right, so thank you, of course, everyone for attending tonight's webinar. Before we begin, we wanted to take the time to acknowledge the tragic events that took place this past week at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas. We recognize that this will continue to be a difficult week for the Uvalde community and the entire educational community. Our hearts go out to Robb Elementary and all the members of the community. And tonight, we look forward to providing you all with insight into two programs which hold a common goal of establishing a classroom community where students feel safe and feel a sense of belonging. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Duke for our official welcome into the evening.
Hello and welcome. We're going to begin shortly going over I'll turn it over to Rachel because I like to make her do the actual work, and I just get to steal the glory at the beginning and the end. So I want to share a little bit about the webinar and the information that we're going to provide you with. We're going to be covering some foundational and components related to Fly 5 social and emotional learning, obviously, hence the branding, as well as how it can work in conjunction with Responsive Classroom, which is actually the program that I tend to work a little bit more closely on, which is largely why I'm here. So as we're going through, feel free to ask any questions in the chat. I'll be monitoring that, doing my best to get back to them and answer them as we go. So if you want to use the chat feature now, share your name, your role in education, and what you are most interested in learning this evening, please do so. I know that we already got it started with some nice little shout outs for locations. Always love to see that. So please feel free to keep it going. All right, and now we just have a little blurbs about the relationship between the Center for Responsive Schools as well as Responsive Classroom and Fly 5. So Center for Responsive Schools, we've put our vision up there, which is to influence and inspire a world-class education for every student in every school, every day, and to bring hope and joy to educators and students alike. So Center for Responsive Schools is kind of our parent organization, of which Responsive Classroom, a student-centered social and emotional learning approach to teaching and discipline, and Fly 5, a global movement that fosters social and emotional competence and a culture of dignity and hope for all people. That's our umbrella organization. And here are Rachel and myself. As you can tell, sometimes I have glasses and sometimes I don't. It's quite the transformation that I have pulled off here. So Rachel is an educational partnership consultant with Fly 5, and I am an educational partnership consultant with Responsive Classroom. So Fly 5 questions, Rachel's your girl. Responsive Classroom, I'm your guy.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Duke, for introducing us and getting us underway with everything. As mentioned, Duke is going to be keeping tabs on the chat, so hopefully we'll be able to answer any questions as they come up. But of course, we are also going to hopefully have a brief moment at the end for any questions that you would like to ask us. With that, I am going to just give us a quick look at our agenda for the evening. We're going to be discussing the origins of Fly 5 and Responsive Classroom, exploring how the Fly 5 curriculum relates to the 4 domains, and of course, discuss the crossover between Fly 5 and Responsive Classroom, highlighting the benefits of using these sister programs in collaboration with one another. So, of course, we wouldn't be able to discuss the emergence of Fly 5 without first addressing the beginnings of Responsive Classroom. In 1981, we were experiencing a nation at risk with widespread underachievement in an educational system failing to prepare students entering into a competitive workforce. All recommendations for improvement focused solely on academics without taking various points of inequality and social emotional well-being into account. Luckily, this was also the time of Responsive Classroom's humble beginnings as the Northeast Foundation for Children, an organization that later developed into what we know today as Responsive Classroom, a program providing professional development, books, and resources to help elementary and middle school educators create safe, joyful, and engaging school communities. Around 2019, we began to see a nation of hope with an emphasis on educating the whole child, coupling SEL skills with academic skills. It was around this time that some Responsive Classroom educators began searching for an explicit SEL curriculum that could be paired with Responsive Classroom and the foundational practices it had provided them with. Thus, Fly 5 was born, rounding out the 4 core curricula of math, science, history, and English to address the developmental needs of the whole child. Next, we just have a quick look at the vision, mission, and core beliefs of Fly 5, all of these centering around fostering a social and emotional competence that will aid young learners in navigating work, life, learning, play, and relationships with success throughout their lives. An important point of foundational connection between responsive classroom and Fly 5 would be the use of the CARES competencies. So created in 1985, the CARES competencies are highlighted within the core belief of responsive classroom and closely related to the 4 domains. For Fly 5, the CARES competencies serve as the core for the curriculum and serve as the foundation for the standards within our course of study. Responsive classroom is intended for teachers to prime an environment for these competencies, where Fly 5 explicitly teaches them to students. Now, familiarity with responsive classroom accompanies a familiarity with the 4 domains, and even so, we are going to review them during this webinar. These domains guide the strategies used in responsive classroom approach and set the stage for students to develop the social, emotional, and academic skills needed to succeed. The Fly 5 curriculum aligns with each domain of the responsive classroom approach, which makes for an engaging and rigorous curriculum. We strongly encourage educators to use the responsive classroom approach to create safe and joyful classrooms where every student can thrive. However, the completion of responsive classroom training is not necessary to successfully implement the Fly 5 curriculum. So with that being said, we are going to address each of those 4 domains at this time, starting with the first domain, effective management, which highlights the importance of a calm and orderly learning environment that promotes autonomy, responsibility, and high engagement in learning. Fly 5 embraces this domain by reaching learners where they are, supporting virtual and in-person learning, and encouraging small group and independent work, helping students to further develop their autonomy. Next up, we have positive community. Positive community encourages educators to create a safe, predictable, joyful, and inclusive environment where all students have a sense of belonging and significance. Fly 5 echoes the importance of this specific domain through lessons that target bully proofing and the fostering of pro-social behaviors, lessons that illuminate how classroom communities are interconnected, and by capitalizing on student interaction as a way to explore the objectives and learn to value others' experiences. The third of those 4 domains would be engaging academics. This focuses on learner-centered lessons that are participatory, appropriately challenging, fun, and relevant, and promote curiosity, wonder, and interest. Fly 5 honors this domain by ensuring every lesson has interactive learning structures and reflection prompts to engage students to explore the lesson objective. Sessions build upon each other and provide choices for how students demonstrate their learning. Diverse characters allow students to engage with a wide variety of perspective and experiences. Finally, to round it all out here, we have developmentally responsive teaching. This includes basing all decisions for teaching and discipline upon research and knowledge of students' social, emotional, physical, and cognitive development. Fly 5 adheres to this domain in a handful of ways. From the components to the activities, each facet of the curriculum was designed for the developmental ages of students. All skills taught within the lessons are based on the social and emotional development of all ages and stages of each SEL standard. So with that overview of the 4 domains, we are going to shift next into the responsive classroom approach and Fly 5 SEL curriculum shared instructional designed strategies. These support optimal learning of academic, social, and emotional skills. So we are going to take these one by one and review how each individual strategy highlights the points of integration between both responsive classroom and Fly 5. This will hopefully provide a good amount of insight into those crossover points. So starting with the first of them, developmentally appropriate learning targets and setting them for the classroom. So responsive classroom recognizes the importance of this instructional design facet as it supports meeting students' developmental needs and ensuring a well-rounded learning experience. At the center of Fly 5 are the CARE standards for a course of study, a response to the need for a set of developmentally progressive social and emotional standards that can be taught in any sociocultural environment. Creating a standards-aligned curriculum ensures that students in every locale are receiving the same high-quality instruction while growing their social and emotional competence through well-developed exploratory materials. Each competency contains a set of educational standards that describe what a socially and emotionally competent learner should know and be able to do. The standards for each competency are similar and relevant for different sociocultural and educational contexts, relevant for successful engagement in the global and local communities, widely applicable, preparing students for current and future experiences in learning, play, work, relationships, and business. Of course, encouraging that success throughout. Moving on to the next piece, we have teacher and student objectives. Defining a clear objective for learning not only allows for students to gain a greater understanding of the goal within a specific lesson, but also allows for educators to reflect back on their own work with a growth mindset. Using clearly defined teacher and student objectives ensures that responsive classroom educators are providing a lesson that is purposeful through explicit description of what students should be able to grasp over the course of a lesson. Similarly, every Fly 5 lesson has a clear objective, allowing educators to effectively implement direct instruction. During a Fly 5 lesson, educators activate prior knowledge and skills, describe explicitly what students will explore, and help students connect to the lesson objective by interacting with teacher resources on our digital platform, providing strategies to practice a social or emotional skill, and of course, setting the importance of using a particular social or emotional skill. Next, we have modeling skills for students. So most, if not all, classroom educators are attuned to the benefits of teaching and modeling. From solving an algebraic formula on the board to taking a character role in a class reading of Shakespeare, it's hard to lead people to places that you yourself are not willing to go. Responsive classroom educators aid students in building self-confidence through demonstrating the skills needed to approach a learning task. Fly 5 provides explicit space for educators to model skills through various activities within the Teach and Model section of every single lesson. In short, both programs provide space for an opportunity of model behavior. Corny jokes aside, we will continue on to the next one, which deals with cooperative learning. So really, from board games to collaborative workplace projects, the benefits of interactive learning are limitless. Interactive learning structures are purposeful activities that give students the opportunity to engage with content in active or hands-on and interactive or social ways. Interactive learning structures are fun, but they're much more than that. They are also igniters of learning. The responsive classroom approach helps educators utilize interactive learning structures to increase engagement and collaboration among students and their peers. The Fly 5 curriculum also includes interactive learning structures to help students apply new skills and strengthen those existing. The structures can be found within multiple activities included in the Fly 5 curriculum, such as the Mindful Student and scenario cards. By piquing students' interest in the material, these structures encourage maximum effort and strengthen students' academic and social emotional skills. By letting students interact in positive ways with classmates, these structures help build a positive classroom community. Next up, we have a look at formative assessment and student reflection. So to start us off with a bit of a quote from American educator, speaker, and author Carol Ann Tomlinson, it is stated that assessment is today's means of modifying tomorrow's instruction. Formative assessments are informal, typically ungraded assessments intended to assess student understanding and inform instructional decisions. Evaluating student progress toward educational goals is necessary in order to meet the needs of all students in the classroom. With the responsive classroom approach to instruction, this is reflected by way of tailoring instruction for a range of learning styles and providing students with the skills necessary to self-assess. Within the Fly 5 curriculum, students embark on their SEL journey, reflecting on their experiences through both independent and collaborative modes of assessment. These are addressed within the reflection portion of each lesson and also within our classroom social emotional type inventory, or what we abbreviate it to be as the SETI, or rather the C-SETI.
We do love our abbreviations.
We really do. These assessments help teachers stay focused on the purpose and outcome of each new activity, ensuring that ongoing feedback is used to improve teaching and learning as it occurs. We will keep going with scaffolding challenging tasks. We are all definitely known to this as educators, or even just as people who were formerly in the classroom, that facing a challenging task can spark fear and anxiety for many of today's students. Scaffolding the skills needed to address a challenging task head on provides students with the confidence, experience, and autonomy necessary to approach such tasks with success in the future. Responsive classroom educators provide appropriate scaffolding through the use of graphic organizers and strategies such as visual cues and explicit direction. In the same light, Fly 5 lessons include access to a variety of tools to help support that scaffolding. There are daily lessons, each lesson color-coded by competency and with its own unique icon. Within each lesson includes a teacher objective and a student objective, and identify the materials needed to complete each session within that lesson. The lessons provide key points for facilitating discussion and monitoring student interaction, and all of the sessions are 20 to 30 minutes and end with a reflection that serves as a formative assessment. Next up, we have the integration of technology. Certainly, we are known to the fact that technology's place within the classroom is ever expanding as students begin to hone in on technological skills needed to succeed and encounter climates that require access to virtual and hybrid learning. Responsive classroom educators utilize a variety of practices to provide students with the logistical and personal skills necessary for successful technology use. Similarly, Fly 5 curriculum addresses specific areas of technological interaction, such as digital footprints, cyberbullying, the intersection of technology and social justice, and much, much more. At the core of responsibility lies the demonstration of social, civic, and digital responsibility. With this, students will be able to recognize actions that contribute to strengthening, improving, or even lessening the quality of life within a school community, as well as demonstrate an understanding of digital reputation and positive online actions. Next up within here, and this would be our final piece of those design strategies, we have metacognitive strategies. So accessing metacognitive strategies in the classroom provides noticeable results in student learning and achievement. For responsive classroom, approaching academics with metacognitive strategies in mind empowers young learners to take ownership over their learning through goal setting and reflections of their own experiences. For Fly 5, each lesson has a built-in formative assessment to determine students' level of readiness. Students make meaning of their learning by processing the newly learned information and thinking about the skill they practiced. When students reflect on their learning, they effectively use strategies to meet academic, social, and emotional goals, take more responsibility for their own learning, and see growth in their own social and emotional competence. Now, at this point, I would like to wind things down a bit with a quote from one of our amazing school leaders, which I will read out loud. It is critically important that we not only pay attention to what students are learning cognitively and physically, but emotionally and socially as well. Fly 5 gives us this opportunity to build knowledge and trust to support our students in these ways moving forward. When considering the reality of being a teacher after state testing, academic curriculum, enrichment periods, everything that is needed to provide the best for our students, opening up your Fly 5 curriculum box might feel a bit overwhelming. In these moments, it's so important to remember that the Fly 5 curriculum is designed for maximum flexibility and to empower you as an educator. We strive to empower decision-making not only when it comes to setting the hopes and goals for your class within our assessment suite, but also when listening to your students, assessing their needs, and addressing how the Fly 5 curriculum can best support your students in their social emotional learning journey, setting them up for success in all those years to come. So at this point, I'm going to pass it back over to Duke, who will talk to us about connecting with these wonderful programs.
And that is done through this very easy email. So if you want to learn more about responsive classroom or Fly 5, you can leverage either of these emails. So Fly 5 inquiries at fly5sel.org. And for responsive classroom, you got educational partnership at crslearn.org. So if you want to talk directly to myself or to Rachel, or our other companion, Brooke, who is also for responsive classroom, but not on the call today. Just use those emails, reach out. We'd be happy to answer any questions you have or meet with you on any of the topics of how this implementation can be done at your school and benefits that you might be able to see with it.
Yes, thank you so much. You can also access those cool little QR codes will take you to the same space of connection. The emails work just as well, but we would definitely like to use the remainder of the time within this webinar for you to drop any questions that you might have within the chat so we can do our best to address them, or any comments, questions that were added while we were going over the webinar, we'd be happy to address at this point.
We got a good one. Is the material available in Spanish? I believe it either is or is coming soon. Is that correct?
That is correct. So currently we do have a portion of our curriculum, the school to home connection, that is available in English and Spanish, and we are working on adding languages as we can accommodate that need. And I believe we are in the works of adding languages overall. So currently, not just yet, but definitely something to look for in the future.
Yeah, and actively planned on, because obviously it's hard to have a inclusive, material if it's not in every language.
Absolutely. And we work towards that inclusivity, certainly. Any other questions?
You can, Cynthia. They are grade specific. So Fly 5 specifically does grade specific licenses. So 8th grade, absolutely. One of my favorite grades, if I do say so myself.
8th grade was definitely a good one. We are comprehensive by grade level. So you can order a kindergarten kit, a 1st grade kit, a 2nd grade kit, a combination of many, all the way kindergarten through 8th.
And Jennifer, how do we get access to a lesson? The easiest way for that is going to be to try to set up a meeting with Rachel, and then we can go through some of that, specifically with you. Would love to see it in Hebrew, a language often neglected. That's a great comment. I actually think that I might have seen that one on the list, but if not, I will see about getting it added.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How many lessons in each kit? I saw Michelle had posted that question. So the lessons are compiled of core lessons and extension lessons. So there are 60 core lessons within each kit and 40 extension lessons within each kit. So totaling 100 lessons per individual kit.
And we have another question that I'll throw your way, Rachel.
Sure.
Are you recommending doing a Fly 5 lesson daily as well as responsive classroom? So before I give that over to you for the Fly 5 portion, I will specify with the responsive classroom portion of that. Responsive classroom as a whole is more of a framework rather than a specific lesson plan that you would need to do. So ideally, you're doing responsive classroom every day, all the time, because it's just an integrated part of your teaching and your tool set.
Thank you, Duke. That's a really, really great preface with that. We would say, and if I'm remembering what that question was correctly, implementing daily. So our best practice model does suggest that implementation occurs with at least 3 core sessions a week. So figure allotting 60 total minutes around there each week. However, that is our best practice model, and that is assuming that you have those ideal conditions for implementing social emotional learning. As mentioned prior, we do put educator flexibility and empowerment at the forefront of the creation of our curriculum here. So we definitely do encourage educators to, as mentioned, seek what works best for your students and see how they are best going to take to the material that you are engaging them with. I see a question really quickly. Can you integrate Fly 5 into the morning meeting structure? So that is a great question. And of course, we do want to maintain that very, very special integrity of morning meeting. It is a very special place and time. It is a very special practice that many, many students and educators do benefit from. So while Fly 5 does not take the place of morning meeting, you can use, let's say, a small piece of Fly 5 during morning meeting. Let's say the hook, perhaps, or even a moment with a mindful student card, or perhaps a scenario card, even closing meeting as well, as Maria had indicated in there. Really, there are so many opportunities, and what ultimately it depends on is addressing those needs of your students. And again, how are they best going to respond? You ultimately know your students best.
Are the cards separate, or do you have to buy the entire kits? With the Mindful Student cards, you can buy them on their own. If you go to our website, you can find those there, and they can be helpful for just breaking out for a quick lesson. That question came to us from Maria.
Yes, definitely. So mindful student cards are available on the website for quite easy purchase there. For anything else kit related, you would definitely just swing our way via those emails.
And another question we have, Jennifer, if we are interested in your program, would we be able to connect with a school that is already implementing the program? Yes, I could arrange that for you if you just want to reach out via email. I'd be happy to put you in contact with someone, obviously, once we get permission from them to do so.
Yes, definitely. I see over here, Abby has a very cool question. At my school, the students lead morning meeting. I love that. That's very cool. Is this kit user-friendly for the students? So what I would say in those regards, I think definitely there's so much benefit in allowing your students to take on that role of leading in that case, right? It teaches them those leadership skills. With the kit itself, I would say our digital portion really is best suited for the educator, just because it has those bits and pieces that are really important for your own navigation. But I would say, each individual product or most of the activities that are associated with Fly5 do have a teacher and student facing side. So you really can allow your students to partake in the activity with that student facing side and still lead some of those activities. I think that's a great idea, Abby. Thank you for bringing that up.
Susie, just a quick answer to that one. Is there going to be a recording of this? Yes, should be up next week. Once we, get it all formatted and good to go.
All right. I'm trying to see if there are any other questions that we may have missed.
If we purchase the program, do you offer professional development for teachers? So responsive classroom is primarily professional development. Fly5, rather than professional development, it's asynchronous training, so the teachers can do it at their own pace.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, Jane, agreed. Just a note from Jane, who's actually higher up in responsive classroom. Students leading morning meeting is truly dependent on the developmental needs of students, but should really be planned with teacher support, just as with any content lesson. Completely agree, and I'm sure that the school is doing just that.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Jane, so much for chiming in there. And I see another, yep. Oh, sorry there, Duke. Yeah, I saw this one before. I wasn't sure if we had addressed it in terms of what grade level to start with. I think that is a fantastic question to get in touch with us about, because ultimately that is dependent on quite a few factors within your own school. And those are definitely deeper conversations that we can have one-on-one as it tailors explicitly to your individual school.
And similarly, the answer with are there any grants available? Similar answer in that get in touch with us and we can go over some of the factors specifically for your school and what grants might be available for that and kind of point you in that direction. Of course, we can't fill out the applications for you, but we can certainly point you in the right direction.
Yes, we absolutely can.
And yeah, I had answered before with the grade level to start with. A nice rule of thumb that I like to use is whichever teacher is going to be most enthusiastic, because honestly, that's what's going to give the program the longest legs, is by giving it to someone who's going to really leverage it and fully go into it, rather than saying, hey, Johnny, you're just going to do this whether you want to or not.
Certainly, certainly. I'm trying to scroll back up and see if there are any that we may have missed. I believe we may be all set with any previous ones. I would say we can take another question or two if there are any. So feel free to pose those in the chat.
And if we missed your question, feel free to throw it back in there. We will not be offended.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Tina. That's not a question.
Well, let's see. We have, what would a standard Fly5 lesson look like or include? So there is the hook, teach model, student practice, and reflection portion, creating 4 explicit points within each lesson. So there are quite a few materials that are included with Fly5. A lot of that information is available on our website. So it can include anything from our mindful student cards to scenario cards to our wonderful student journals, to read along projectables, to PowerPoints, poster packs, so many different points that can be included within a Fly5 lesson. So it really gives you a lot of variety within there.
They are not linked, or sorry, Juliet, are these programs linked to American curriculum only? No, they are not. They are designed to be usable anywhere.
Yes, absolutely.
Applicable for pre-K. Rachel, I think you'd be better for answering that one.
Yeah, so currently we do have grade levels between kindergarten and eighth grade. However, within kindergarten, there are specific age ranges that it is applicable to. So I would really say, applicable for pre-K would maybe be dependent on the grade levels that your pre-K is serving, and definitely something that I would encourage you to book a meeting with myself in order to discuss more in depth. All right. So I believe with that, it seems like we got quite a few questions answered. We definitely have access to our emails up here as well as the QR codes. So please do feel free, reach out to us with any questions you may have. We're very friendly. We love to chat.
Depends on the
day. But we definitely love to joke too. So please definitely reach out to us. And thank you so much for joining our webinar tonight. This is really a great turnout, and we are looking forward to speaking with a lot of you soon.
Yes, and hope that everyone has a wonderful rest of your night. Looking forward to the long weekend coming up. So please make sure to use the most of it.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Take care and have a great evening.
Have a good one, everyone.